Good morning, Paul. It's November 11th, the Friday. Here's the heads up brief for today.
Thanks, Uday. Go ahead, mate.
So, Paul, there's quite a few things in Indonesia. I'll run them through one by one. So,
Yep.
clashes took place between students and security forces at a university in Jayapura yesterday. They were marking the death anniversary of a prominent Papuan activist who was assassinated by security forces in 2001.
East Alloway, was it?
Yes.
Okay.
Paul, Jakarta is also swearing in the acting governors of the new Papuan provinces today. The
Yep.
chancellor of the University of Cendrawasih is the South Papua's acting governor. Uh,
Yep.
the head of the Papua Province Social, Women's Empowerment, and Child Protection Services is the acting governor of Central Papua. And the Highlands Regency governor has not been named yet.
Okay.
Paul, going to politics in Indonesia, there's talk about Jokowi supporting Prabowo for the 2024 elections. It's far from an official statement or anything, seems to be more politicking at this point, but we're keeping an eye out on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting indicator indeed. Keep an eye on that. Thank you.
Yeah. And Paul, lastly, in Indonesia, workers of a mining and nickel smelter company will protest over better working conditions from tomorrow for a week. The mine is located in South Halmahera and North Maluku, and the project does have Chinese investment.
Okay, thank you. Look, this is all tied together. Obviously, Jokowi's potential support may be that he sees the only way to sort out the mess that is the police is to bring in a strong man and support somebody. However, of course, as we discussed previously, perhaps ultimate power ultimately corrupts, and once the police became subordinate, it had that immediate effect. And I would imagine if the military got control, Dean of Prabowo's background, if he was to be president, I don't know that it would be a long-term improvement, perhaps a short-term PR stunt, though. I'm saying with all this Chinese investment, Lulu in particular is just running rampant in terms of cuddling up with the Chinese. Nothing to do, of course, with what's good for the nation. It's what's good to do with certain pockets in the hierarchy. So thanks for the heads up on that. That's interesting and noted.
Yeah, sure, Paul. So moving over to Thailand, Paul, there's a new party that was recently formed. It's excuse my pronunciation, it's the Rom Thai Sangchart Party. Now, sorry. Now, this
Go ahead, mate.
party has said that Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha would join the party. This comes on the backbone of the tensions between Prime Minister Prayut and Deputy Prime Minister Prawit, but both of them have denied that there are tensions between them, so it could be rumors.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, they're two very strong characters, and in meetings they can have different opinions. People think that Prawit's subordinate to Prayut, and it's a totally top-down operation. It's not the case. Prayut's a very, very good strategic thinker. He listens to those around him, and he tolerates people disagreeing with him. So I'd suggest that other people with softer skin have perhaps misinterpreted a heated discussion in a meeting, but both Prayut and Prawit can see the bigger picture much better than most of the civil governments that would want to take power but just haven't developed the skills to manage a country at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's interesting, Paul. Also, regarding the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Bangkok, authorities have designated the public square in front of the city hall as the designated site for any protests that might come up.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks.
Paul, lastly, for the East Asia Pacific region, in Papua New Guinea, police are saying that there's an increasing trend of armed criminal gangs targeting small businesses in Leh in Morobe province.
Okay, so this is very interesting because that trend so far has been going for about 40, perhaps 50 years now. So it's interesting they've stated it now. But there's a lot of politicking going there where the police are getting asked to do everything without resources, without training, without budgets, without any will of the government to do anything other than pass all their problems to the police to fix. Okay, over to South Asia. Thank you.
Right, Paul. So to follow up on yesterday, Imran Khan's march resumed in Pakistan. It remains to be seen how much support the march gets over the coming days. And protests in cities outside the march route could also continue as they have been over the last few days.
Okay, thank you.
Also in Pakistan, Paul, authorities said that the Barrick Gold Corporation will be given a new gold mining license for the Reko Diq mining area in Balochistan.
Can you look that up later? That's important. Hethian used to be, I think it's the same operational issue, and it was ultimately raided by members of the Baluchistan Rebel Army. A lot of fatalities occurred. There was a law case going on between Tethian and the government. Tethian trying to avoid duty of care for the death of people by saying it was a cost share with the government. The government didn't share. Not an overly great defence, by the way. But I do need to know if that's the same resource, because the Barrick's obviously a lot more capable of looking at the security dynamics there, but I'm not sure they're as capable as they would perhaps need to be. So, yeah, a little bit of research from the team, whether
Yeah,
it's the same location as Tethian's old mine. Thank you.
yeah, we'll do that, Paul. I think it is, but we'll double check and get back to you shortly. Lastly, in Bangladesh and South Asia, Paul, a new gas reserve was found from an abandoned well in Sylhet. It's estimated that it could produce up to 10 million cubic feet of gas per day.
We need to know the total reserve there, 10 million feet a day. Isn't
Yeah.
that relevant unless we have the total reserve, okay?
Okay, we'll look into that also, Paul. Lastly, Paul, in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region, it's mostly a continuation of the strikes and protests across Europe in response to the Russia-Ukrainian conflict.
Okay, yeah. So look, let's just keep a real close eye on that. There's some happenings in terms of how poorly the Russian withdrawal is being analysed and falsely analysed, and a whole heap of false deductions being made through one eye. But what isn't lying is the growth of protests by various countries in Europe, and that is a real factual and clear and very blatant indicator we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That's a heads up recording for today.
Great. I'll chat to you in our management meeting later, okay?
All right. Thanks, Paul.